सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयम् शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम् चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Salutations to all. So we will learn the Guru Paduka Stotram from today. Ananta samsara samudratara Naukayitabhyam Guru Bhaktidabhyam Daurbhagyadavam Buddhamalikabhyam Durikritanam Ravipatatibhyam Vipatatibhyam, not Vipatitabhyam. Durikritanam Ravipatatibhyam Namo Namah Shri Guru Padukabhyam Natayayo Shri Patitam Samiyuhu Kadachidapyashu Daridravariyaha Mukashya Vachaspatitam Hitabhyam Namo Namah Shri Guru Padukabhyam So this is the glory of the Padukas of the Guru. So the first verse says that the Padukas of the Guru are like the boat which help one to cross this ocean of samsara. And two Padukas. So what do these two Padukas bless us with? Guru Bhakti and Vairagya Samrajya. So Bhakti and Vairagya. The Padukas symbolize the knowledge in which the master is established. When the master is there, we worship the feet. When the master is not there, we worship the Padukas. So for the devotee or the seeker, Padukas are not just inert sandals. They represent the very knowledge in which the master is established. Like the flag for us is not a piece of cloth, it represents our country. The bhav comes in that same way. So salutation to the Padukas which act as a boat to take us across this ocean of samsara and which bless us with bhakti and vairagya. Then Kavitva Varashi Vishakarabhyam. Padukas invoke a lot of creativity also in the seeker. Kavitva Varashi Vishakarabhyam. Like the ocean, the waves rise because of the moon. In the same way, the poetic waves also rise in the seeker. Daurbhagya Davam Buddha Malikabhyam, which removes the entire collection of this misfortune. Durikrita Anamra Vipatatibhyam, and those who surrender to the Padukas, those who devotees who are able to take refuge in the Sadguru, their difficulties the Padukas removes. Namo Namah Shri Guru Paduka. Natayayo Shri Patitam Samiyuhu. They also bless the person very quickly with great prosperity and wealth and help them to drop the Ridravarya. They may be very poor or in whichever ways. Poor doesn't mean only through wealth. We have also seen the fourfold qualification, sadhan chatushtaya. We are poor in that respect. So the Padukas bless us with the wealth of sadhana chatushtaya as well as the wealth of jnana, bhakti, vairagya and moksha. And mukascha vachas paditamitabhyam. Those who are dumb, they also become eloquent. This is the faith. Dumb become eloquent does not mean some miracle only here. Meaning those who are ignorant become wise and knowledgeable. So these are three verses of the Guru Paduka Stotra. Now, coming to our topic. In that, what is the Anatma? What have we seen? Sthula Sharir and Sukshma Sharir. Now, what we have to see is Karana Sharir. Sthula Sharir is the gross body made up of 5 elements. Sukshma Sharir is subtle body made up of mind, intellect, 5 senses of knowledge, 5 senses of action, 5 pranas. So how many items totally? 17 or 19. If you add Chitta and Ahankara. Now, this Sthula Sharir and Sukshma Sharir. What is that which is the cause of both these? That cause is called as Karana Sharira. Causal body, not casual body. Causal. Why it is the cause of this 2 bodies. And it is very subtle. So today's topic, you have to pay a lot of attention to understand this topic. So let us start this lesson number 7. So what is the definition of this causal body? Page number 1, you have it there. Now this definition is based on Tattva Bodha. Anirvachya, Anadi, Avidya Rupam, Shariradvayasya, Karanamatram, Satsvarupa, Ajnanam, Nirvikalpaka Rupam, Yad Asti, Tat Karana Shariram. Now this is called as Karana Shariram. What is this? Anirvachya, indescribable, Anadi, beginningless, Avidya Rupam, of the nature of ignorance, cause of the 2 bodies, Sharira Dvayasya Karana Matram, cause of gross body and subtle body. Satsvarupa Ajnanam, ignorant of the self. Nirvikalpaka Rupam, beyond duality, beyond parts. Yadasti, that which is of this nature, that is called Karanship. Now, for ease of understanding, the description of this Karan Sharira, we will understand in the order in which they are given here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the second page. Because the first page, the definition, Anadi, all these, Anirvachya, that is little subtle. First, we have to understand the other aspects. So, what is the first point? Sharira Dvayasya Karana Matram. Okay, so it is the cause of the 2 bodies. So now, answer. We do actions in this world, and those actions give us the results. Okay. So results, now we are doing the tracing of the cause. Results are caused by what? Actions. That I already told. Actions are caused by
what? Desire.
Desire or thought. Decide one. Why not desire?
Desire will give rise to thought.
Desire give rise to thought or thought gives rise to desire? Think more clearly. Decide. So how many of you said desire give rise to thought? अरे ऐसा नहीं proper. And how many said thoughts give rise to desire? Desires are the cause. One desire to fulfill, many thoughts will come on. I recognize the desire also in the form of thought only. Without thought, I can't recognize the desire. But desire rises first. So desire is the effect, thought is the cause. Desire leads to thought, thought leads to action, action leads to desire. This must be clear to us. The confusion should not be there that thought comes first, desire comes next, then action. Because remember, sustained thought leads to action. How do you sustain the thought? How do you sustain desire? Through sustaining thought. Sustaining thought leads to action. So desire, thought, action, result. This is to be understood clearly. What causes us the desire? The nature of our vasanas cause the desire. So vasana is called impression. If sattvic vasana is there, we will have sattvic desire, sattvic thought, sattvic action, and whatever is the result appropriate will come to us. Same way rajasic or tamasic. Now these results, they will further strengthen the vasana. Strengthen or weaken, one of them they will do. They may weaken a vasana and create a new one also. Depending on whatever type of intention I have, with what ego I create, do the action, that will create a vasana. So now this impression, so see, now you tell me in this, where is the gross body? If you have to indicate gross body, we do the actions through the gross body. Don't say we have mind also behind it. I'm just asking predominantly. Where is the subtle body in this? Thoughts and desire, this is the subtle body. Without this subtle body, can the gross body function?
No.
Not possible. Now, both of these are created from where? They are created, the cause of that is the vasana. Subtle body also is created according to the vasana. And as per the vasana, if sattvic vasana is there, the subtle body will be sattvic in nature. Rajasic is there, rajasic in nature. So the quality of the vasana, the quantity of the vasana, and the direction of the vasana, they will determine the entire nature of the subtle body. Because each of us have the same 5 elements as the material cause. Our subtle body is made up of same 5 elements: space, air, fire, water, earth. And which type of 5 elements? The ungrossified 5 elements. If you remember, apanchikrita panchamahabhutaihi krita. Then what is that which is making difference in each of us? Is the vasana, the impression. The vasana in each of us is different. Hence the quality of the subtle body is different. Though the raw material is the same. See, that is the point to understand. The raw material is the same, 5 elements. Our gross body also is made up of 5 elements only. But the texture of this subtle body, which is the desires and thoughts, which includes emotions also, that texture is influenced by what? This vasana. So this vasana is the cause of subtle body and its texture. And to be more clearer, what makes the distinction? The quality, quantity, and direction. Quality of vasana means sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. Quantity of the vasana means number of vasanas. And the direction of vasana means extroverted or introverted. The direction is actually dependent on the quality. With sattvic vasana, it will be introverted. With rajasic, tamasic, it will be extroverted. So quality, quantity, and direction. That determines the difference in all the subtle bodies. Though the raw material is the same. So being the cause of the desires, because when we understand this fact, that a desire is what? A desire is a sense of incompleteness. And that sense of incompleteness, to feel that, to feel fulfilled, we want to get something from outside. So somebody wants fulfillment through satsang, somebody wants through a movie, somebody wants through food, somebody wants through watching cricket. Each one's vasanas are different. And because of those vasanas, their entire desires are different, thoughts different, action different, results different, the whole life is different. So now this is the meaning of Sharira Dvayasya Karana Matram. So this we saw is the cause of the subtle body is this vasana. How is vasana the cause of gross body? Because to exhaust particular types of vasanas, we need particular type of equipment. Accordingly, we get the body. If we have a lot of sattvic vasanas, we will get the bodies which are higher yonis, which is Deva, Yaksha, Gandharva, Kinnara, all these. Or even human body which will get more satsang. If we have a mixture, sattvic, rajasic, then human ones, and we have more tamasic than the lower ones. Animals, plants, birds, even stone, even the inert yoni one can go into. So these three, sattva, rajas and tamas, the quality of these vasanas determine what type of body I will take. Because to exhaust those vasanas, I will need those types of bodies. Tamasic vasanas cannot be exhausted in a sattvic body. If predominantly tamasic vasanas are there, it will need only a tamasic body. So the appropriate equipment has to work. And today it is very easy for us to understand that. In a phone which can operate only 2G network, if you put 4G SIM card, will it work? It cannot work. It needs a proper appropriate equipment. So Sharira Dvayasya Karana Matra means this subtle body, this causal body is the cause of the desires, thoughts which are subtle body, as well as cause of the gross body also. Sharira Dvayasya Karana Matra. Now one important thing to understand here. So the cycle we have seen is impression leads to desire, leads to thoughts, leads to actions. And these actions lead to results. And results further strengthen the impression. Now if somebody asks the question, why do these desires arise? We said desires arise because of impressions. Impressions are there because of incompleteness. Apurnata is there. Why is there this incompleteness? Ignorance is the ultimate answer. One step before that. Yeah, but you have to add one more word to that. False identification with the body. False identification with the body leads to incompleteness. Body means BMI. This body, mind, intellect. Am I aware in the state of deep sleep? I am not aware. Am I aware in the state of complete absorption? My mind is fully absorbed in the work. Am I aware of who am I? What is my, who is my father? What is my qualification? What are my qualities? Nothing. Mind is fully one with the work. So I have forgotten myself. When I have forgotten myself, I don't feel incomplete at all. The moment I identify with this small I, incompleteness starts. Then desire will arise, then thought, then action, then result. This whole cycle starts. In deep sleep, there is no desire at all. Why? Because there is no identification with the BMI, there is no incompleteness. Now, why do I identify with the BMI? Because I don't know who am I. So this ignorance of the self. That is the next point. Sat Swarupa Ajnanam. I don't know that my nature is Sat. Sat indicates all the three. Sat, Chit, Anand. What is Sat, Chit, Anand will be the next chapter. The nature of Atma. But right now just suffice to understand existence, consciousness, bliss. That is my true nature. We all want those three things actually. We want to be permanent, we want knowledge, we want bliss. But we don't know that is my nature. My nature means who is that my, not the mind, the self, Atma. Not knowing that, that ignorance in me makes me think of myself as this body, mind and intellect. Gurudev always said non-apprehension leads to misapprehension. If I don't know, there will be a projection. Suppose I don't come to class till 7:20, 7:30. Some of you may try to call me or not reachable. What will you do? Swami, we will go home. You may call somebody else, you may imagine, "Arey, pata nahi kya ho gaya," send somebody to Chinmay Priyam, something one may do, because the mind cannot stay in non-apprehension. There will be some projection that will happen. So when we don't know the self, Satsvarupa Ajnanam, the nature of my true self is not known as Sachidanand, then what will happen? I will identify with the BMI, feel incomplete, and then this whole cycle will start. So now when we say Karana Sharir actually is these two things. 1 plus 2. This is Karana Sharir. Ignorance of the self plus Vasana is equal to Karana Sharir. Just keep that much in mind. Ignorance of self plus Vasana is Karana Sharir. And why it is called Karana Sharir? Because it is the cause. Cause of what? The cause of this entire bondage also. This is called, see this first part, no? This is called ignorance cycle. 1, 2, 3. This step number 1, ignorance of the self. Then false identification with BMI. Then incompleteness. Till this much is called ignorance cycle. Then this part, impression to impression, this is called karma cycle. And what does this lead to? This whole cycle? Both these cycles lead to what? Bondage, correct. In the form of birth, life, death, again birth. This is the cycle of birth and death. This is samsara. So both these lead to this cycle of birth and death. And the reason why this is called as Karana Sharir is two reasons. One reason is it is the cause of the gross body and subtle body. Other reason is this is the cause of samsara also. And what is samsara? Nothing outside. Nothing outside. Samsara is inside. Desire, thought, vasana, desire, thought, action, result. Further vasana. And to fulfill that vasanas, the birth and the life I live and the death I go through, again that is also samsara. So both this is called samsara. This is caused by what? This ignorance and the vasana. So in Vedanta we make a simple distinction. Jagat means the world outside. There is a world outside of names and forms that is called as Jagat. Who created the Jagat? Ishwar created. Bhagavan created this Jagat. But samsara means what is the inside my response. So vasana, desire, thoughts, action, result, vasana, this cycle, that is called samsara. Now who created that samsara? I created. So what can be ended? Samsara can be ended. We don't have to end the Jagat. Samsara has to be ended, meaning ignorance has to be eliminated. The cause of my suffering is this Karan Sharir. Now, why am I studying this Karan Sharir? Because if I want moksha, I want fulfillment, then Karan Sharir has to be eliminated. See, in Vedanta, that is the point, main point. We are not here for peace of mind only. Peace of mind is a state of mind. Like anger is also a state of mind, greed also is a state of mind, contentment also a state of mind, peace also a state of mind. That will come and go. No doubt it is important. It's a sattvic state of mind. But we are not trying to have only peace of mind. That is a means, quietude of the mind. If you remember in Sadhana Chatushta, it was there. No? Samadhanam, absorption, quietude. That is a means. For what? Realizing my nature as Brahman. So the root cause of my sorrow is this first point, ignorance of the self. But we should know all the other steps also of how the ignorance manifests in our life. Otherwise, it is like a student who knows the final answer. The derivation in between one doesn't know. Then there is confusion. So this root cause has to be eliminated. And what is that? Sat Swarupa Ajnanam, that is the root cause of sorrow. In common language, day-to-day language, colloquially, what one says, desire is the root cause of evil. Desire is not the root cause of evil. Look at the desire, where it comes. It comes here. How many steps before that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 steps before that. Now this vasana which is there, this vasana is unmanifest. We will not know the vasana till it manifests as a desire. So this vasana is different for each and every person. And the person himself or herself will not know what type of vasana one has till it manifests as a desire. So the first step to control a vasana can be at that level when the desire arises. As a human being, we have both this power, Ichha Shakti, this is called Ichha Shakti. And this is called Kriya Shakti. Ichha Shakti, Kriya Shakti. And we also have one more power in the Buddhi that is called as Jnana Shakti. Now that knowledge, what we get is the crucial aspect. What is that knowledge? Knowledge of what is my goal, what is my purpose, how should I live in this world to fulfill that purpose. If my purpose is to get moksha, to get out of this cycle of birth and death, to remove ignorance, then according to that I have to see these different types of desire they arise. A tamasic desire arises. Using vivek, using jnana, I should say, no, I don't want to give into this. So we arrest the manifestation of desire here itself. If this itself is stopped, then it won't manifest as thought, action, result, nothing will happen. It will go. But sometimes what happens, the vasana is so powerful that the desire also is very powerful. So the desire is not going, even if I say yes, even if I say no, it will still manifest. Which is where that tremendous purushartha, willpower, all that is required to prevent that. Because it may make me think, I can still control at thought level. Channelize it in different way. There are many methods that you will see as we go along how to exhaust these vasanas. But important point is to understand why this is Karan Sharir, because this is the Karan of desire, thoughts, action, result, vasana. And the cause of these vasanas is ultimately ignorance. So both these are the cause of the two bodies as well as the samsara that we face here. So now 2 points we have seen. Sharira dvayasya karana matram sat swarupa ajnanam. So this ajnanam, very important, is there are two types of ignorance. One is called as Moola Avidya, which is what we just saw, Sat Swarupa Ajnanam, meaning ignorance of the self. Other is called Tula Avidya, which is ignorance of objects. Objects meaning external things. Now this Tula Avidya is different for each person. Somebody is ignorant of physics, somebody is ignorant of chemistry, somebody is ignorant of whatever, mathematics or English or Chinese or Japanese or whatever. Each one's ignorance is different. But this Moola Avidya is same for everybody. That we don't know self. That Moola Avidya is common. That Moola Avidya is what is the cause. That's why it is called Moola. In the world, what we try to do most of the time is try to remove this ignorance of objects. Try to get as many degrees as possible, learn as many skills as possible, competencies as possible, which have its own relevance. There's no denial of that. One can do that. But that is not all. If I don't remove this ignorance of the self, I will keep suffering in this samsara. There is no other option for liberation except this. Ignorance of the self has to go. Now this ignorance of the self, Sat Swarupa Ajnanam. What are the qualities of that ignorance of the self or this causal body? So the third point given is Anadi. It is beginningless. Ignorance is beginningless. Why is it beginningless? Can we say ignorance began at a particular point in time? Even the objective ignorance, forget subjective ignorance. Objective ignorance, can we say it began at any point in time? From when do you not know Japan?
I know, but when I started not knowing, I know.
I'm asking that question. When you know it, the ignorance ends. That you can say from, last year when I visited Japan in 2018 March, from then onwards I know Japan. But till when you know Japan, till when you did not, when did your ignorance of the Japan begin? How will you tell that? Can we say that, Swamiji, I think from 2011 to 2018 I didn't know Japan? And in 2011 ke pehle you knew, then there is no ignorance. This is objective I am talking. Then the subjective, from when do I not know self? Can we say that I don't know self from 20 births before? Before that, there are only two possibilities. Before knowledge. One is, before ignorance. One is knowledge and one is nothing. Can ignorance be born from knowledge? I have clear knowledge of something. Ignorance can be born from that. Can there be darkness for the sun? Wherever the sun goes, no darkness. If I know something very clearly, there is no ignorance after that. The problem is if we take some examples in the world. So if I say that, I have knowledge of mathematics, I am referring to some aspects of mathematics and I don't know many aspects of mathematics. So that is the limitation of the example. But suppose we say addition. 1 plus 1, 1 plus 2, 2 plus 3, 4 plus 5. That addition, I have the knowledge of addition. From there, can ignorance be born of addition? Not possible. Ignorance of other aspects of mathematics, so that was there from beginning only, from the beginningless time. I don't know those. So if we say ignorance has a beginning, there are only two possibilities before that. One is knowledge, another is nothing. So from knowledge, ignorance cannot be born. From nothing can ignorance be born? Ignorance of what? If there was nothing, then ignorance is not going to be born from there, because from nothing, nothing can come out. Even ignorance cannot come out. You had a doubt about this, knowledge and ignorance? Yeah.
So I was wondering that knowledge can give rise to ignorance, like for example, having knowledge of Jainism or Islam or Buddhism, it can give rise to some kind of pattern which can lead to a behavior which is not going to help.
That is not called ignorance. That is wrong understanding, wrong action. That is not
So
ignorance.
I am a little confused with wrong understanding and ignorance. I thought
Ignorance
that
is absence of knowledge. They cannot be synonymous.
okay.
Ignorance is absence of knowledge. Wrong understanding is wrong understanding of knowledge.
Okay.
They are two
Yeah, now I'm
different
clear.
things.
Thank you so much.
So ignorance cannot come from knowledge. Ignorance cannot come from nothing. So that is one way to understand that ignorance is beginningless. Now, why this is important to know? Okay, ignorance is beginningless. So why should I know that? Because we remember the mind always wants us to find out the cause at the beginning. Now, when that question comes that this birth, life and death, the cause of this is the desires, thoughts, action, results. They are caused by impressions, vasanas. Now the automatic question which will come is, which was my first vasana? Yeah, we always want the root cause, no? Which is the first vasana? How can there be a first vasana? Why? Because this first, it's a product of time. And time can be measured only when there is mind and intellect. In deep sleep, is there time?
No.
There is no time because there is no mind and intellect. So time is a product of mind and intellect. Mind and intellect are a product of vasanas. So vasana itself is beyond time. And beyond the vasana is ignorance. How can there be the beginning of ignorance? Beginning and end are in time. One. Beginning and end apply to finite objects. Now this is not an object, this is absent, this is ignorance. So this ignorance of the self, when we say it's beginningless, it is to stop this causation hunting. Instead of trying to trace that, this birth is the cause, because that's how science also works, that's how human intellect works. From symptoms, we will go to the cause. And from cause, we go to the root cause and then try to eliminate the root cause, then the other things are gone. In finite things, it is easy to identify the beginning of something. But when we say this ignorance of the self, time itself was not there at that time. Because of ignorance of self, vasanas manifested, they manifested the subtle body, they manifested the gross body. When the subtle body got manifested, then only came time. So how to know what is the beginning of, because time didn't exist at that time. So the practical implication of this is that I don't need to worry which was my first birth, what did I do at that time, what was the cause because of which I forgot myself. No need of any of that. Ignorance is beginningless. But one very important thing is not there in your material, but very important to know that ignorance is beginningless, but it will and can end. Okay. Ignorance is beginningless, but it will end. Atma is beginningless and endless. Anadi and Ananta. That's the difference between Atma and Avidya. Avidya is beginningless. Because then somebody can say Avidya is beginningless, Atma is also beginningless, so Avidya is equal to Atma. How can that be? Ignorance ends. It is only absence of knowledge. The moment we come into this room, we switch on the lights, ignorance or darkness goes. The moment lamp of knowledge is brought in, ignorance will go. So ignorance will end, though it is beginningless. So that is one important aspect to understand, that the focus should not be on trying to find out what is the cause of my suffering, when did the first vasana begin, what was there before that, because we are very interested in that. We want to know what all is there in previous lives. So people go into past life regression also. What were my previous births? What all did I do in the previous births? Which all karmas have I done? And one of the most popular questions that people have is, Swamiji, why don't we remember our past lives? Because if we remember past lives, then we will not make the mistake. I tell people, in this life itself, what all wrong we have done, that we don't learn from and we repeat that mistake. If I know all the past lives, I will know all the past mistakes, all the past relationships, all the past confusions. How will I live safely here? So instead of chasing this cause, particular cause that what gave rise to what, I should understand ignorance is beginningless, but it can end. So my focus has to be, because it is Sat Swarupa Jnanam, it will end by Sat Swarupa Jnanam. But I should try and get the Sat Swarupa Jnana. Ignorance will go by itself. Root cause of sorrow will be finished. So Anadi means this, that it is beginningless because there was nothing before ignorance from where it can come. And two, time itself is a product of mind. And mind is thus, what can you call it? Effect of the effect. What is it called? Secondary effect or tertiary effect? Primary is ignorance, then false identification, then incompleteness, then impression, then subtle body. So 4 steps before mind comes into play. So tertiary effect of ignorance. So how will that we have time? So there is no beginning of ignorance, but ignorance will end. Now the next point is anirvachya, avidya rupam. It is of the nature of ignorance and it is indescribable. Naturally, ignorance has to be indescribable. Can I describe? I don't know Japan. Describe the ignorance of Japan. If I start describing the ignorance of Japan, there are only 2 possibilities. Either it is proper knowledge, in that case there is no ignorance, or it is a projection. Then I am not describing ignorance of Japan. I am describing some assumption that I have about Japan. Ignorance of anything cannot be described. Because if it is to be described, knowledge has to be there. Anirvachya. But more importantly, in Vedanta, this word anirvachya has a special connotation. Anirvachya means indescribable. That which is not sat or asat is called anirvachya, is indescribable. What is not sat or asat? Can we say ignorance is sat? Ignorance exists. We cannot say ignorance is Sat because what is the definition of Sat? Changeless in 3 periods of time. That is the definition of Sat. Is ignorance changeless? Yes or no? No, it will end. When knowledge rises, it will end. That which was, which is, which will be the same in 3 periods of time, that is called Sat or the reality. What is real? Ignorance is not real because ignorance will change and eliminated when the time of knowledge. Can we say it is Asat, that it does not exist? So what is Asat? So if Sat is changeless in 3 periods of time, what is Asat? Changing in 3 periods of time.
Which doesn't exist.
No,
That which doesn't exist at all.
that's it. That which doesn't exist. What exists in 3 periods of time and that is changeless, that is called Sat. The opposite of that is what does not exist in 3 periods of time. That's the opposite. What does not exist in 3 periods of time? What are examples? The examples in the scriptures are the horn of a rabbit, or the horn of a man, or flower, sky flower. The flower which grows only in the sky, doesn't require soil and water, sky flower. Or son of a barren woman, non-existent. Past, present, future, it does not exist at all. So ignorance is neither Sat nor Asat. It is neither existing nor non-existing, but it is a separate category which is called appears to be existing. It is not there, but appears to be existing. This category is called mithya, illusion. It only appears, it is not really there. Ignorance is called mithya. Why? Because I am seeing the effect of ignorance or not. The body is there or not. World is there or not. Subtle body is there or not. Effect, if it is there, that means cause has to exist. But that cause is not existing in 3 periods of time. So we say it is not Sat. Nor can we say cause is non-existent because the effect of it I am seeing. How can the cause be non-existent? So it is not even Asat. Now if it is not existent, not non-existent, but I am still experiencing the effect. So then the only possibility is mithya. It is appearing to exist, but it is not there. Like the mirage. Mirage appears, but is mirage actually there? No. But the person who is seeing, can you tell that person the mirage is not there? He's saying, but I am seeing it. So that which is neither real nor unreal, but which is only an appearance, that is called mithya. Now this, which is neither real nor unreal, is indescribable, anirvachya. Why it is anirvachya? Because how to describe that? We can only say that as long as this BMI I am identified with, ignorance is the cause. And that ignorance, when it is the cause, it will go by the right knowledge. Pass. One cannot describe this avidya. What is the nature of this avidya? How to describe? Because even if we describe it, it does not help to end it. Description of ignorance doesn't end ignorance. And also, that is the description of what actually, if you think about it. That's a description of the projection, not of ignorance. That's a description of the projection of the snake, not of the ignorance. Ignorance is never described. How can you describe? Because if I know that this snake is not real, then I am seeing the rope. Then there is no question of seeing the snake at all. But when I am seeing the snake, that appears very real to me. At that point, if somebody says, no, no, this is not real, this is an illusion, then will I be interested in describing the snake, or will I be interested in knowing what is that which is appearing as the snake? I will want to know the substratum. And that substratum I am ignorant of. I don't know the rope. How will I describe the rope? Somebody says that, no, no, this is not the snake, it is the rope. That person is telling me. How will I know it is the rope? Till I see it. So that ignorance of the rope can never be described. Whatever is being described is only
Projection.
some projection of the snake is being described, or some pointers of the rope are being described, which is the knowledge of the rope, which is not ignorance. That the rope is that which is brown in color, it is that which is having a texture, some pointers you can give. Now using that pointer, what will one do? Two things one will do. One will say this snake is not real, the rope is real. So using the pointer, I am detaching from the snake and attaching to the rope. That's the way to end the ignorance of the snake. So description of ignorance of the rope, sorry, ignorance of the rope. Ignorance of the, not ignorance of the rope. Rope to I am seeing. Sorry, snake. Snake to I am seeing. Ignorance of the rope has to be ended. How? By using the descriptions of the rope. Ignorance of the rope is never described, because that, how can you describe ignorance of the rope? I don't know anything. So that's why it is anirvachya, that it is not describable. You had a question?
Mithya and projection. How do we?
Same it is. Projection is mithya. The rope is projected as the snake. The snake is the projection. That snake is mithya.
Mirage also.
Mirage also projection. Yeah, so the technical difference is only this much. Mithya is inside us, Maya is what is the appearance outside. Same. Appearance outside also is a projection. This BMI also is a projection. One is from this individual standpoint, we say it is Mithya. From the total standpoint, we say it is Maya. Yeah, the root word for that is that. That's the reason why we should never use the word mythology for our Puranas. A very clear words there. Itihasa and Purana. There is no.
Mythology.
This is a purposeful wrong translation done to make us feel inferior about our own scriptures. This is all myth. This is not real. And specifically Ramayana and Mahabharata, they are called Itihasa Purana. It thus happened on the earth. And these other Puranas are Pura Apinutan. They are ancient, but they are like the cosmology. They are not only on earth. They are about the higher worlds also. It's about the cosmos, the Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Suvarloka, what is happening there, what is happening in the between, what is happening here, what is happening down. It will tell all different things at different planes of consciousness. So both of them are not mithya, mythology. From Vedantic standpoint, yes, we can call it as mithya. That is, the whole universe is mithya. That is a different point. There we are trying to realize Brahman, so we negate everything, including this BMI. But when people say that scriptures are mythology, Hindu mythology, that is not a correct expression at all. We should just say Hindu scripture. And Itihasa Purana is different from the Purana. So the Itihasa Purana is called epic. Epics are only two, Ramayana and Mahabharata. There are 18 other Puranas. Now what translation can you give for the word Purana in English? That's why language sometimes falls short. How can you translate Purana? There's no way to translate Purana. The meaning of Purana means Pura api nutanam, ancient yet new. How to say that? There are 18 ancient yet new books. Yeah, so Mithya is that mythology, or this illusion. So mythology we should not use at all. These are some of the distortions done wantedly. Like Aryan. Arya means a gentleman. Arya does not mean a specific race of people at all. कहाँ से वो translate करके Max Muller introduced that Aryan invasion theory, Max Muller and Macaulay, and just imagine that Aryan concept made Hitler feel so superior that he is a supreme race. 40 million people died in that World War because of this one misinterpretation. Just think what all it has done to this country also. Aryan and Dravidian divide. That is such a myth. So coming back to this Karana Sharira. What are the three things we saw till now? Sharira Dvayasya Karana Matram. It is the cause of the gross body as well as subtle body, and by implication it is the cause of samsara also. 2, it is beginningless. 3, it is Sat Svarupa Ajnanam. 4, it is indescribable. Anirvachya, Avidya Rupam. Now these are the 4 points. Then 5th point is Nirvikalpaka Rupam. So Vikalpa has 2 meanings. Vikalpa means thought. Nirvikalpa means beyond thought. Obviously, causal body is beyond thought. Why? Because the cause is always subtler than the effect. Cause is causal body. That gives rise to the mind and intellect, in which there are thoughts. So now thoughts are effect of this causal body. So what is the nature of this ignorance? It does not have any thoughts. See, we express the nature of ignorance through thought for us to understand. Please remember that part. That's a different point altogether. When we say that ignorance means I don't know the self, that is you and I expressing it for us to understand through language and communication. That is not a description of ignorance. I don't know self is only words, is only expression. What it is indicating, that is not describable, and that is beyond thought. I may use a thought to communicate something which is beyond thought, but that does not mean that that has thoughts. It is still indescribable only. When I say I don't know the self, now what does it convey? Nothing except I don't know the truth. In that there are no thoughts, it is not by itself describable. So Nirvikalpakam means it is beyond thought. Again, what is the practical implication of knowing this? What is beyond thought can be realized is the pure consciousness is also beyond thought. And this ignorance can go only by the knowledge of that pure consciousness or the self. So if I want the knowledge of that pure consciousness and the self, what should I do? Go beyond thought. To destroy the root cause which is beyond thought, the knowledge which is beyond thought has to rise. So in contemplation, that intuitive knowledge which is beyond thought is what has to rise. It cannot be a blank. It cannot be a shunya. Ultimate realization is not thoughtlessness. Thoughtlessness, by the way, is perception of a thought of nothingness. It is still a thought. It is not Nirvikalpaka Rupa. It is still a thought. Like the first person who comes here, what that person will say? There is nobody. Now to say that there is nobody, I must be there, no? So what am I perceiving? When somebody comes in after everybody has come in, that person says, so many people are here. because that person is perceiving existence of so many. When nobody is here and somebody comes, they are perceiving the absence of all of you. So when I say absence of everything, I say there is nothing. That also is a thought. There is nothing. And if I say that so many of these things and so many beings and so many thoughts, then that is perception of all the things existing. Both are categories of thought. So what does a Vedantic student try to do? Vedantic student tries to end the false identification with the BMI by detaching completely. One just waits as a Sakshi or contemplates on the truth. So all the thoughts will go, including the last thought, which is the thought of the truth. That pointer also will go by itself. Then one comes into Nirvikalpa Rupam. That state is also called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So very interesting. Avidya is Nirvikalpa Rupam, and the Jnana of Nirvikalpa Samadhi will destroy that. So Nirvikalpa will destroy Nirvikalpa. Thought cannot destroy the Nirvikalpa. Only Nirvikalpa can destroy Nirvikalpa. So the Jnana of Nirvikalpa Samadhi will destroy the Ajnana, which is Nirvikalpa Rupam. Today's International Yoga Day. The objective of yoga is this: destroy this Nirvikalpa Ajnana. There is a Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi. Only difference there is a Samadhi, there is absence, there is Shunya, there is zero. Vedanta says no, there is no zero, it is consciousness. Yoga literally means unite with that pure consciousness, which is my true nature. And one important thing we must do is preserve the purity and the depth of yoga. Otherwise, the mind, in the name of adaptation and application for modern life, what all things one is doing in the name of yoga. Sometimes one wonders, is this even connected to yoga? Patanjali Maharshi must be wondering, ye kya sikhaya maine, ye kya kar rahe ho? Something is going on. So though it is becoming popular, which is a good thing, but the purity of that must be retained as it is so that the ultimate objective is reached. Otherwise, we will start using yoga for blood pressure and cholesterol and hyperactivity and tension and heart problem and diabetes. That's a very it is symptomatic treatment, and for that, what all things one is adding. So Nirvikalpa, one to realize that what is one of the sutras, the famous sutra of yoga, Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is what? I think second sutra, no? Or the first sutra, Yogastu Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Second sutra. First is Atha Yoga Anushasana. Second sutra. Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Control all these thoughts and do what? Not become a blank. Transcend this thought. Boundary of thought one transcends. So that's why Nirvikalpa Rupam. So one is the meaning of this Nirvikalpa is thought. Other is the meaning of, Vikalpa means thought, Nirvikalpa means beyond thought. So other meaning of Vikalpa is differences. Differences. Vikalpa means differences or parts. That we say in Hindi. Alternate solution, Vikalpa. That in Hindi. In Sanskrit here in Vedanta we have two meanings. Difference. So now there is no difference in gross body there are differences. Each of our gross bodies are different. Plus inside the gross body also there are so many differences. Hand is different, leg is different, heart is different, kidney different, everything different. Why the difference? Because there are parts. And each part is different from the other. Subtle body also has parts. What are those parts? So many. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya. This is the negative 6 vikars. Then the positive, Ahimsa, Satyam, Akrodha, Tyaga, Shanti, Apaishanam, it goes like that. Positive, negative, parts are there. Different types. So the thoughts, when they come into that particular mode, then they are called positive or negative. But ignorance, there is no differences. Now, one thing we have to understand here. There is no differences because ignorance of the self is homogeneous. There are no parts in that because self does not have any parts. One. Two, vasanas also, there is no difference. You said, no, Swamiji, just now you said Sattvic Vasana, Rajasic Vasana, Tamasic Vasana. So, three parts to ho gayi. No. That there's one big difference. Remember what we spoke. Vasanas are unmanifest. So, one very important analogy to remember Vasana is the seed analogy. You see, the tree has so many parts. The trunk and the branches and the fruits and the flowers and the leaves and so many parts the tree has. But the entire tree is manifested from seed. In the seed, are there parts?
No.
The potential lies as it is without parts. In the same way, the vasanas, when they are there in the Karana Sharir, they lie in an undifferentiated state. There are no parts inside that. Only when they manifest outside, they will manifest specifically as the desire. That desire, when we see, then we infer from that quality of desire, so this is a sattvic desire, so there must be a sattvic vasana. In the subtle body, when it manifests, then only we see it as a part. In the seed state, it is not there. There are no parts inside. So, vasanas don't have any part when they are in the causal body. Now, how do we explain this? In our deep sleep state, are there sattvic, rajasic, tamasic vasanas?
No.
No, only vasanas, the dormant. Only when we come to dream and deep sleep will these vasanas manifest as sattvic, rajasic or tamasic desires, thoughts, actions. So, nirvikalpakam means two. One is beyond thought and one is beyond differences. There are no parts in this. So, avidya, so causal body is homogeneous ignorance. Plus vasanas. This homogeneous applies to both. It is there in dormant state. There is no distinction in that. And that is the reason why when the vasanas are all unmanifest, everybody looks so nice. The worst criminal and the most innocent child, when they both are in the state of deep sleep, how do they look? So lovable, so nice. Once they get up, then we have all the trouble. Till then, why? Because vasanas are all in undifferentiated, undistinguished state. They all are unmanifest, dormant, thus blind. What is the meaning of that now? Nirvikalpakam. Avidya also is nirvikalpakam. Vasana also is nirvikalpakam. So when they manifest as vikalpa, as a desire, as a thought, we have to be alert to recognize and we have to control it there. Once we control it there, then only we can turn the mind towards contemplation on the nirvikalpa atma. If we don't control the vasanas manifestation at the desire and thought level, they will make us extroverted. Then to sit quietly and meditate on nirvikalpa atma is not possible. So now these are the 5 aspects of the causal body. I know this chapter is little subtle. You have to read through this again. Now this causal body is experienced exclusively in which state? Like gross body is experienced exclusively in waking state. The consciousness identified with the waking state, that ego is called as Vishwa. Consciousness identified with the dream state, that dream ego is called as Tejas. Now you see what is the consciousness identified with the deep sleep state called Prajna. So this was page number 7. What is the state of waking? If you remember the definition, Shankaracharya said, identified with this gross body and the senses, when we interact with the world of objects, that state is called waking. What is the dream state? Impressions which are collected in the waking state. Jagrad avasthayam yad drishtam yad shrutam. What we have heard, what we have seen in the dreams, waking state is mixed up and projected in the dream state because buddhi is not active. Now what is the deep sleep state? See the definition. Aham kimapi na janami sukhena maya nidra anubhuyata iti sushupti avastha karana sharira abhimani atma prajna iti uchyate. The description of the deep sleep state. Now, one thing we should remember here is the description of this deep sleep state is after one has come out from deep sleep, one can recognize, not while one is inside it. What is the experience? Aham kimapi na janami. I did not know anything. Sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate. Happily I was enjoying the sleep. That state is called Sushupti Avastha. Now, what is the important point here? Deep sleep is a very important state. If this deep sleep is not there, a lot of problems will happen. One is from the body standpoint itself, body and mind both. They are rejuvenated only because of deep sleep. Without deep sleep, the BMI will not be rejuvenated, they will be exhausted. Last time we discussed about that. The apps which are coming, they measure your deep sleep, light sleep, all that they will measure. Amount of deep sleep is required because in the state of deep sleep, body, mind, intellect all become quiet, dormant. Physiological function is going on, but the conscious mind, subconscious mind is not alert, not active. So many systems are relaxing. And that's what rejuvenates. So one is from body standpoint, mind standpoint is very important. Second, from the Vedantic standpoint, we can understand that I exist even in the absence of the awareness of my body, mind, intellect. That means I am different from
Body mind.
body-mind. If that deep sleep state was not there, we cannot identify that at all. Third point, happiness does not depend on objects at all. In fact, it is the opposite. It depends only on I. In the state of deep sleep, what is said here? Sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate. I did not know anything, no objects were there, but still I was happy. That means I don't need objects to be happy. I may need objects to be excited, to have some fun using my senses. That is not happiness, that is pleasure, that is excitement. So deep sleep is a state which is to tell us that my nature is pure happiness. Now one thing to remember is this happiness is not happiness which is of the mind. It is happiness of the self reflecting in this mind which has become quiet. The mind and intellect which is dormant, being closest to the self, the happiness of the self is reflecting in this. That's the sukha here. Sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate. So one is the happiness is of the self, closeness to the self. That is one. And second is, it is absence of the troublemaker. Who is the troublemaker? Mind or ego. His ego is dormant. Waking ego, dream ego, both are dormant. They are not there. So no trouble is there. Because none of the identifications are there, no thoughts, no agitations, nothing. So it is actually called as negative bliss, not the absolute bliss of the self. This is the absence of agitation. So relative quietude. That sukha is this. So aham kimapi na janami sukhena maya nidra anubhuyate. It is sushupti avastha. What is the dream? What is the deep sleep ego called? Karana sharir abhimani atma prajnati uchate. This atma which identifies with the karana sharir is called as prajna. Now this word prajna is very interesting. When it is identified with the deep sleep, prajna word means completely ignorant. Prakarshe ajna. And it also means, prajna also means knowledgeable. This is in the state of realization. In the deep sleep avastha, it is complete ignorant because I don't know anything. That's the experience. I didn't know anything. Today is what it is called power nap. Dreamless sleep. I didn't know anything. Now this is the three states. So when we say anatma, gross body, subtle body and causal body. Causal body exclusively is experienced in the deep sleep state. Remember, all the three bodies are there in all the three states. But each state, like the waking state, is the only state where we experience the gross body. Gross body is there in dream and in deep sleep also. But the experience is predominantly in the waking state. Same way, subtle body is there in waking and deep sleep. In one it is dormant, in one it is active. But exclusively it is experienced in the dream state. In the deep sleep state, exclusively Karana Sharira is experienced. This Karana Sharira is also there in the waking and dream state. Because it's the Karan. Without Karan, how can the other effects be? This Karana Sharira also manifests in the waking and dream state. How? Through the kosha, Anandamaya kosha. So if you remember, the three bodies are equated to 5 koshas. Gross body is equated to Annamaya kosha. Subtle body is equated to Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya. Now this Karana Sharira, causal body is equated to Anandamaya kosha. So this Anandamaya kosha, in the deep sleep it manifests as what we just saw. Absence of everything and being close to the Atma, it experiences Sukha. In the waking and dream state, how does it manifest? In the form of Priya, Moda and Namoda. Priya means the joy that arises in the mind at the thought of something enjoyable. Suppose I like what? Okay, gulab jamun. The thought of gulab jamun will bring joy. If anybody likes gulab jamun, their mouth must be watering already. Gulab jamun. Hot, hot. Kailas Parvat ka gulab jamun. Superb gulab jamun. Now, if I want to relax, I will start imagining. And you know, this is a method used by a lot of relaxation technique people. They will say, imagine the place that you love the most. And somebody will imagine some beach, some Thailand, some USA, some Switzerland, some place they will imagine. And you are relaxing there, and there is a beach there, and you are taking bath in the sun, and some people go on elaborating. And this person also starts imagining all that. And you know the science behind this. The science behind it is very simple. Brain doesn't know the difference between inside and outside. How funny is that? We live our whole life distinguishing between inside and outside, but the brain doesn't know what is inside and outside. So if you see an actual apple, which areas of your brain will light up? The same areas of brain will light up if you imagine an apple also. There is no difference. Who is taking us for a ride? Our own brain is taking us for a ride happily, and we are not aware only. So we think what is outside actual apple is actual, this is only imagination. But as far as the brain and the body is concerned, it is same, no difference at all. So Priya is that joy which I experience when there is just imagination of that object. Moda is the joy when I get that object. Gulab Jamun will there. Now Gulab Jamun is right in front of me. I don't have to imagine, I am actually seeing it. Now when I see it, there is much more joy. One only has to wait. In our ashram and all that, we chant 15 chapters of the Gita. Now full food is waiting. Hot food. By the time 15 chapters will get over, it will all become thanda. The mouth will keep watering as you are chanting 15 chapters because you are seeing it, you are enjoying it with the eyes, enjoying it with the fragrance. You may even start touching it, but you won't put in the mouth because you have to wait till Brahmarpanam is not over. So now it is right in front of you. So now you are enjoying through the other sense. And then Pramoda is when actually you take it and put it in the mouth. Bliss. Brahmananda also may not compare to that. Just that you take that one piece of Gulab Jamun, hot Gulab Jamun, and put it in the mouth. That joy is called Pramoda. The joy of actually enjoying it. First is the joy which is imagination. Second is I have got it. Third is I am actually enjoying. Sometimes the distinction is made for the second one, that the possibility of getting it is real, that also starts giving joy than actually getting it. So moda can be both. If the surety is that I am going to get, then there is much more joy. Or actually I have got it, either ways. So this Anandamaya Kocha manifests in three ways: Priya, Moda and Pramoda. So now this is the whole description which is given here. And how does Anandamaya Kosha, which is nothing but Karana Sharira, that itself manifests in deep sleep state as the negative bliss, and in the waking dream as Priya, Moda and Pramoda. Remember, this Ananda is not the Ananda of the Atma, because this Ananda changes. That is changeless Ananda, pure consciousness, absolute bliss. Now what we have done, this is called as Anatma. Now what is the Atma? That will be taken up in the next two chapters. That we will take up in our next class. But what I suggest is you please go home and read this chapter. As much clearly as possible I have explained. But this chapter, many people ignore this chapter saying ki, Swamiji, at this stage of our life, this is not relevant. Sure. No, we should not do that because this is the cause of my sorrow. Ignorance is the root cause of my sorrow. And the goal of life is to remove that ignorance by the knowledge. If I don't understand this properly, confusion will be there in the understanding of Vedanta. So Karan Sharira has to be understood properly. Also because many people get satisfied with the small means on the way. Now if you saw that cycle, how many people, they are just happy to be good and do good actions at the action level. Will that remove ignorance? There are people who will say positive thinking. I mean, no doubt good actions are required, positive thinking is required, but is that the goal? I can keep telling my mind, be positive, but if my vasanas are negative, what can I do? I have to know how to transform the vasana. So this understanding of this causal body is the proper foundation for the whole spiritual path and the sadhana. Because then the sadhana will be how to transform the vasana, not only just make the thought positive, not only make the thought single pointed. Because ultimately I have to transform the quality, quantity, direction of vasana and remove what? Ignorance through contemplation. So this chapter is important. Please read again and then give the test. I am sure the test is not going to really test your understanding of this chapter. Because the test we have made it simple. Okay. Really? That's because of the options that we give there, which are confusing options wantedly which we give.
Quite good.
There are
Quite a lot of good.
really in the earlier chapters, Googling.
It's same with Gita also, sir. Gita has a lot of good.
Even the ignorance also call this.
Some wrong answers. Very, it's very easy, but
That's the whole. That is the thing now. The illusion of knowledge is that I know. Illusion of knowledge is that I know. Now if somebody goes, you go home and somebody says, समझाओ कारण शरीर. वैसे देखो भाई कारण है बस. समझ लो. आगे पूछो मत. शरीर और मन का कारण है. उसको कारण शरीर कहते हैं. बस समझ जाओ. समझदार को इशारा काफी. That's why Manan again and again. This I have taught so many times. Still I keep on discovering. अरे इसमें तो ये understanding था. समझ में नहीं आया. कितने साल समझने के बाद. So this is lesson 7 completed. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Namaha. Hari